Good morning. Yeah, it's nice to hear human voices. I've been doing this for so long and staring into a camera. And before the pandemic, I would say good morning, and the congregation would say good morning back. So we're having to remind ourselves of our old rituals that we used to have. But welcome to this place. Welcome to this place where we strive to welcome one another as we are, without pretense or affectation, but with prodigious affection for one and all. So I want us to have some fun today. I hope we have some fun today, even as we explore deep matters of the heart and soul. It's our annual flower communion, and you'll learn about this during the service, so I won't say anything more about that right now. But right now, I just invite you to be in this moment, to give yourself a vacation from the woes that beset your mind. Let's be as one now as we enjoy the beautiful languages of music, word, and image, telling stories to enrich our community of memory and hope. And on this particular Sunday, my mind, thanks for reminding me, George Struble, my mind drifts back to 1944 and what was happening in our world. And on that day was D-Day. Tremendous courage and sacrifice of so many people to help overturn evil regime of the Nazis. And so today, let's also be mindful of those who have helped create the world that we live in today with a spirit of gratitude. Welcome again. Thank you all for being here. Whether you're watching online or if you're here in person, you're most welcome. I'm so glad to see you all.
Our safety practice for hymn singing includes leaving your mask on and singing softly or humming. I'm going to stay way back here in this corner, so you will not be impacted by me. And our opening hymn today is "Oh, Give Us Pleasure in the Flowers Today." It's number 64 in the Great Hymnal. Please rise in body or spirit. Oh, give us pleasure in the flowers today, and give us not to think so far away, as the uncertain harvest keep us here. Oh, simply in the springing of the year. Oh, give us pleasure in the orchard white, like nothing else by day, like ghosts by night, and make us happy in the happy bees, the swarm dilating round the perfect trees, and make us happy in the darting white, abundantly above the bees is heard, the meteor that thrusts in with needle bill, and off a blossom in mid-air stand still. For this is love, and nothing else is
We are often moved to boldly proclaim our promises, our beliefs, our truths. Yet, I've learned that words spoken softly often have more impact than those that are shouted. Let's whisper our affirmation together this morning. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. The best way to increase your own happiness is by sharing it with others. A flower doesn't compete with those around it, it just blooms. And the more you praise others, the more your own self-worth becomes. The light of a candle is not diminished by the kindling of another flame. Here at UUCS, it is our tradition to light 3 chalices each Sunday morning when we gather. The first we light for our congregation, its members, its friends, and all those we hold dear. The second is for our partner church, which is located in Simonfalva, Transylvania, Romania. And the third is for our children and youth who will carry this flame into the future. Please join me in softly singing the flame into light. Children's RE is taking place back in the RE wing at this time and is available in both services, so we welcome children in our services. We asked folks to send in pictures of their flowers, so now we're going to show those to you.
Take a deep breath and just relax into this moment. Be in this space. Absorb the peace found in each moment. As we reflect on our lives, we realize how challenging it sometimes is. Have you ever had your heart broken? I know the answer even as I ask. You have had your heart broken many times, as you've had to face all manner of heartbreak and disappointment in your life. It's part of life, and it's so hard. But something good emerges oftentimes from the shattered ruins of a broken heart. Having known sorrow, you become more aware of the sorrows of others. And this awareness gives birth to compassion. If you come here today with a broken heart, know that our community welcomes you and invites you to be your full and sorrowful self. We are here to listen without judgment, to hug, to hold. Let us all remember to be aware of one another, to listen to one another. Let us all be creative weavers of compassionate connections between us and amongst us. For compassion for ourselves, compassion for those around us, compassion for all beings. This is the path we walk. We also walk the path of gratitude. In the early years of life, we see clearly, through a glass clearly, the window pane through which we behold all life is clean and sparkling. Over the years, the soot builds up, all sorts of dirty, toxic air caused by worry, fear, anger, confusion, despair. And this air leaves a toxic residue on the pane, sometimes so thick you can no longer behold the beauty of this life. All you can see is a reflection of your unhappy self. How great it is that we can clean our windows, the windows of our soul, through which we behold the world. We can adopt practices and attitudes that dissolve the soot and grime. We can let go of our anger and regret. We can find peace beyond our anxious worries. We can pray, meditate, create art, behold the beauty of nature. And here we sit in this beautiful Willamette Valley, surrounded by flower, ancient white oak trees, wildlife of all sorts, sharing this habitat with us. What a glory to behold. How will you know when you truly behold the unfathomable glory of this most wondrous life? How will you know? Your heart will be full of gratitude. Gratitude. And so we walk the path of compassion and gratitude, and we find our way. Amen.
We invite you to share your joys and sorrows with the community and to check on what has been posted by others by going to our website, uusalem.org, and clicking on Joys and Concerns. And there you can find what's going on in our community and with our members.
Our pastoral hymn today is My Life Flows On in Endless Song. It's number 108 in the gray hymnal. Please sing softly or hum, and you may remain seated. My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far off hymn that hails a new creation. music ringing, it sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth, it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
In the name of Providence, which implants in the seed the future of the flower, and in our hearts the longing for people to live in harmony. In the name of the highest, in whom we move, and who makes the mother and father, sister and brother, lover and loner what they are. In the name of sages and great religious leaders who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of the age of mutual respect, let us renew our resolution sincerely to be real brothers and sisters, regardless of any bar which estranges us from each other. In this holy resolve, may we be strengthened, knowing that we are God's family, that one Spirit, the Spirit of love, unites us, and endeavor for a more perfect and joyful life. Amen.
Thank you, Janet, and thank the cellist. It's so lovely to see Noah Seitz here along with George Struble and Dr. Kett playing the cello today, so thank you, gentlemen. 100 years ago, where do you think the largest Unitarian church in the world was? Some of you may know the answer, but if you would just think about it, you'd probably never guess the answer. The largest Unitarian church in the world 100 years ago was in Prague, Czechoslovakia. It's now in the Czech Republic, but it was called Czechoslovakia back then. There was a guy named the Reverend Norbert Čapek. Janet just read his words, and he originally learned about Unitarianism when he was in America. He was a Baptist minister when he came to America, and when he left America, he was a Unitarian minister. That's what happens when you come here sometimes. And he was inspired when he returned to his homeland, Czechoslovakia, to found this liberal, free-thinking church in that beautiful, ancient European capital. And he quickly discovered that it met the spiritual needs of Czechs who were seeking alternatives to the traditional religions they had been born into. And from their perspective, those religions were so full of rote rituals, inscrutable dogmas, and authoritarian enforcement of opinions. No, not everybody's opinions got to be the same. No diversity, no theologically diverse opinions. Hundreds, even over 1,000, I think his membership got up over 2,000, a huge church. Hundreds flocked to hear Chopik's great talks and enjoy the free-spirited discussions that followed. So all these people would come on Sunday, they'd gather and they'd have a big talk, and then they'd go home. And after a while, Chopik was thinking about this, and he realized that, there was no singing, no hymns, no prayers, it was just talk. And after a while, Chopik realized, something's missing, and he realized that people's distaste was not for rituals per se, but for rituals that were not spiritually meaningful. And as Chopik began to think about this, his mind naturally drifted. He was trying to think of, well, what kind of a ritual could we have? And his mind naturally drifted to the great floral diversity of the Czech countryside. And this led him to envision a unique ritual for his Unitarian congregation. And it was not supposed to mimic or mock any other ritual. He wouldn't want to do that. But he wanted it to be a ritual that would meet the spiritual needs of his theologically diverse congregation. Czech Unitarians enthusiastically embraced the flower communion ritual that Chopik created, and soon, not too long after, it began in Cambridge, Massachusetts. American Unitarians learned of this flower communion, they adopted it, and they followed suit, and it has taken root. And in just 2 years, we will celebrate the 100th anniversary of the flower communion on the first Sunday of June in 2023. I'd like to note here that the flower communion should be held on the first Sunday of June every year. If you attempt to observe this ritual on any other Sunday, the flowers you bring will instantly, mysteriously wilt as soon as you enter this building. And I know you don't want that to happen. So I'm planting it firmly in your minds. I won't be here forever. That the flower communion is the first Sunday of June. You got that? So, thank you. So after crossing the century mark, we can officially say that the flower communion have stood the test of time, and it is our unique ritual that so brilliantly symbolizes the blessings and the benefits of our free faith spiritual community. You can notice it a lot better when we're open fully and you can see the full ritual unfolding, but really it's elegantly simple ritual. You bring a flower, and if you forgot to bring a flower, we have extras for you to place in a bowl as you enter the building. And the flower symbolizes you in your intricate uniqueness. And this reminds us that every person who enters our building adds something special, that your unique, beautiful presence brings something that we wouldn't have had here if you had not shown up. And so you add beauty to our congregational community. And we co-create this beautiful bouquet as we gather. As you entered, we put our flowers in there. We co-create this beautiful bouquet, and the multicolored beauty of it reminds us to be appreciative of the beauty of one another. And then, just as you're leaving today, and we'll wheel the flowers out right by the door when you leave today, take a flower, but don't take the flower that you brought if you brought one. And this is to remind you of how we're enriched by other people in this community. So it's a pretty simple ritual, but there's nothing simple about meeting the horticultural spiritual requirements that make this ritual truly meaningful. Let me explain. Now, I don't know what kind of flower you are, but I do know something about a flower's needs and our needs to grow. Some flowers are tenacious and resilient, can thrive where you wouldn't expect, like pansies. You would think pansies of all flowers would be weak, but I see them growing through the cracks of the sidewalk all the time. But overall, it's necessary for flowers to be grounded in good fertile soil, have plenty of sunlight and water so that they can bloom and reveal their true glorious potential. Well, I have discovered that one essential condition for my spiritual growth is having shining examples to inspire me. I absolutely have to have shining examples to inspire me in my spiritual life. You know, we have our 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism. Those are our values. It's in the front of our hymnal. And those are great. They're abstract, idealistic principles. But if your principles are so demanding as to seem humanly impossible, you can get discouraged and throw in the towel. But think about this. Think about what happens when you encounter someone, either living today or from the past. We encounter people from the past, read about their lives, study them. I have a lot of good friends who were dead before I was born. And so we think about somebody from either today or from the past, someone who has shown courageous, sacrificial commitment to the greater good, or someone of exceptional wisdom and compassion and equanimity. When you encounter people like this, either personally, which can be rare, or through reading and studying about their lives, it can really charge and chain you. And people like this can almost seem superhuman, but that's not it. They're not superhuman. It's that they're humans doing exceptional things that even they might not have imagined was possible. People sometimes transcend themselves simply by getting caught up, swept up in the spirit of love and courage and commitment. And they do things, and afterwards everybody's, wow, how did they do that? And you could call these ones our spiritual superheroes, our spiritual superheroes. And there are countless people living and gone for whom this sublime appellation is most fitting, spiritual superheroes. When you encounter, however you encounter such figures, something gets kindled within you. It's like the sun comes out, as it just did. Consider some of my spiritual heroes who remind me of the great responsibility that ministers in our tradition bear in exercising freedom of the pulpit, especially during challenging times when the powers that be they governmental or ecclesiastical authorities, prefer that the light of truth not be seen and the voice of truth not be heard by the people. So I remember the shining moral courage of my colleague, the Reverend Imre Gellard, who was arrested by secret police in the dead of night in the village of Šimenfalva in the Transylvanian region of Romania. A number of us have taken spiritual pilgrimages to that church, old Unitarian church, founded in 1568. Can you believe it? Did you know there were Unitarian churches that old? And we've taken a pilgrimage there. And I met his daughter, Judith Gellard. Or imagine in the middle of the night, the police car, the dark limousine or whatever they drove around in pulls up, and you know it's the secret police. Gellard's Unitarian voice threatened Ceausescu's totalitarian communist rule, and he was imprisoned and suffered under inhumane conditions, which led to his death. I think of the Unitarian minister Francis David, who 4 centuries earlier in the same region of Transylvania was imprisoned and perished in a remote dungeon because he refused to cease preaching the truth as best he understood it. I think of the Unitarian minister Samuel J. May, one of my personal heroes. He spoke in so many places where anti-abolitionist mobs who wanted slavery to stay in this country, they threatened his life. But he condemned the evil of slavery with every fiber of his being for many decades. And he most certainly earned his place in the Abolition Hall of Fame, where he was inducted in 2017. Did you know there was an Abolition Hall of Fame? There is, in Petersboro, New York. And they have only inducted less than, I think, 30 people who've really, really worked to eradicate slavery in this country. I think of the Universalist minister Olympia Brown, who absolutely refused to accept that women were not supposed to be ordained into the ministry and preach. And yet she did so in the face of hostility and scorn, and she was a steady rock who helped turn the tide of history in favor of women's equal rights. In my own lifetime, I remember Martin Luther King Jr. preaching in Riverside Church, New York City, 1967. King saw how the Vietnam War's high cost in blood and treasure. It was siphoning off precious resources needed to fight poverty and racism, and they were just sending young men over there and all that money. Disproportionate number of soldiers being sent over there, of course, were people of color. Against the advice of practically everyone, King spoke out against the war in Vietnam in 1967 when few else dared to do so. He was roundly criticized by everyone at the time, practically everyone at the time, until the time came when people recognized how tragically right he had been. So I have absolutely needed those superhero spiritual examples of courage and commitment to remind me of the responsibility I bear in my role. I have a pantheon of spiritual superheroes, especially the Buddha, deeply influenced by Buddhist tradition, Jesus, deeply influenced by the life and ministry of Jesus, the Hebrew prophets, Beethoven, you knew he would be in there, those of you who know me, Gandhi. They're examples of moral courage and compassion and creative imagination that stretched my heart and soul. It changes me for the good. So maybe if you get a chance today as you're leaving, you can tell me, who are your spiritual superheroes? I'm always on the lookout for new ones. Read biographies. I love to read biographies. It's a good way to learn about great souls of the past. Study the lives of the saints and the sages and the poets and the mystics and the prophets for compassion and justice. Or get out and meet people who are doing good things in the world. And you'll naturally gravitate to the spiritual hero that you need to befriend. Who you choose or have already chosen as your spiritual superhero says a lot about you and the deepest yearnings of your heart. In effect, your spiritual superhero is a symbol of your nobler, more sublime, and compassionate visionary self. So admiring your spiritual hero is not about wishing you could be somebody that you aren't. It's about giving you a needed lift, which we all need from time to time, so that you can draw closer to where your true heart bids you go. You've often heard me speak about my spiritual superhero, Samuel J. May. He's almost completely ignored in our tradition. He's one of the greatest figures, a great 19th century reformer, and that's one of the reasons I talk about him so much. He doesn't deserve to be neglected like he is, but he embodied such courage and compassion and commitment in his wide-ranging ministry. What a great soul he was, who has made my soul shine brighter by virtue of his example. I really take it seriously when I read about these people and I think about their lives, and it really stretches me. But even May, he had to face off against anti-abolitionist mobs. He always, at least theoretically, had the protection of the law. That's because he did go in the South earlier in his life, and he was shocked, and he condemned slavery when he was riding with some other people in a carriage, and they saw some slaves walking by, and he had never seen it before. But when he went, all his anti-abolitionist activities were pro-abolitionist activities were in the North. But if he had gone down to the South, he would have certainly been dead on arrival. They did not put up with that kind of stuff. He would have been killed on arrival. But he didn't. He didn't face the threat, the kind of threat that Norbert Chopik faced. Before the Nazis invaded Czechoslovakia at the beginning of World War II, they saw it coming. He had this opportunity. Come on to America while you can, Norbert. They wrote him, they pleaded, please come on to America while you can. He said, no, I'm going to stay here with my congregation during this hard time. And so he did. He stayed there. Imagine what goes on when somebody makes a decision like that. He decided to stay with his congregation and support them. And the Nazis came in, and they took control, and they ruled with a cruel and an iron fist. And Chopik knew that Gestapo agents were among the visitors to his Sunday services, and that they took note of everything he said. The worst I've ever had to face was looking out at somebody who fell asleep during my sermon, but not a Gestapo agent. I can't even imagine how that would feel. But Chopik was not the sort of minister who could or would be silenced. Imagine speaking brave truths from the pulpit in that condition, and he did, even when the Gestapo was in attendance. What moral courage he showed. Inevitably, he was arrested. They put him in a concentration camp. You ever heard about the Nazis doing medical experiments on people? He was one of them. He died. Witnesses say he always strove. He always strove. Imagine, even when he was down to 80 pounds in that camp, he always strove to minister to those around him, even unto the end. His spiritual beauty shone brightest during the darkest hours. What a thought. What a life. And so I've come to realize that the annual flower communion, it's a good time to remember Chopik. It's a good time to remember all those who inspire me to be my best, most brightest, beautiful, unique self. It's a good time to have a deep encounter with one spiritual superhero, whoever that may be for you. During this most trying time, I sense a call to shine the light of spiritual beauty into our often dark and painful and confusing world. And I need all the help I can get in doing so. Now I'm going to read a prayer that Norbert Chopik wrote to consecrate the flowers. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessings on these thy messengers of fellowship and love. May these flowers remind us, amid diversity of knowledge and gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May these flowers also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May these flowers we cherish remind us of the friendship we cherish as one of the most precious gifts in our life. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Amen.
Each member, visitor, and friend to this congregation is an essential part of our beautiful bouquet. The unique color, scent, shape, and form of each of us plays an integral role in the making, the workings of UUCS. You are the spirit that sparks joy in this community. And likewise, you are the financial backbone that makes our many ministries possible. We also share our abundance in our Share the Plate program, and this month's Share the Plate recipient is the Thompson Patch Scholarship Fund. We encourage you to place your contributions in the baskets provided as you leave the sanctuary, and your generosity is greatly appreciated. If you're watching online, you can make your donations by going to uucs.org and following the prompts. Going to ask Reverend Rick to now kindle our social justice lantern. We kindle this from the flame of our community chalice as it symbolizes the carrying of the light of this community out into the greater world. Each time we gather together we light our chalices, and each time we part, we extinguish them. Like the flowers you brought today, and those you'll take home with you today, the beauty, light, and warmth of these flames is temporary. But the beauty and the light and the warmth that you carry in your heart is what will kindle these flames the next time we are together again.
We have a couple of announcements. I'd like to invite you to join the fellowship hour, the Zoom fellowship hour. I sure look forward to telling you to come back and join us for our fellowship hour in the social hall, where we have coffee and all sorts of tasty treats oftentimes. I look forward to that. But we do have a Zoom fellowship hour, and you can register for it. It starts at 2 p.m. on Sunday afternoons. Gives you a chance to get to know other members of the congregation and have a good conversation with them. So sometimes I get the question, okay, there's a slide saying I already knew that. In-person services have resumed. And this is more for the people who are watching online. 9:30 and 11:15, we're having our services. So please, you can come in person now. You do need to register, though. The art team is looking for some good art. If you're an artist, let us know, and we'll project your artwork up there in our slides at the beginning of the service. Sometimes I'm asked, who's in charge around here? And the answer is, you are, the congregation. We have an annual congregational meeting coming up on next Sunday. We always have an annual congregational meeting because the congregation makes the important decisions in this community. We'll be electing new officers for the board, approving a budget, and also settling a lease agreement with Habitat in Hope Village across the street. We're hoping to see a little shelter for women in transition to be built over there. So that's an exciting thing. So please do, if you're a voting member, please do come to our meeting. And if you're not a member, you're still welcome. We have no desire to keep anybody out, but voting members will be voting. This week, we're going to have a General Assembly Delegate Forum. Board Chair Christine Ertl and I are going to be leading that, so you can learn about how you can be a delegate to our General Assembly, which is in the latter part of June. We're a democratic association, Unitarian Universalists are, and we need to be up to speed on all the issues that we'll be voting on. So I encourage you to come to that as well. And I think that's all the announcements that I have. You can see the other announcements that are printed up on the screen, and I'll trust that you can read those on your own. Yeah. Oh, yeah. George. I'm sorry. George Struble has something he wants to tell us about, and our good friend George Struble will now tell us about, well, you tell us.
Today, we want to recognize the installation of our 2 legacy plaques. The first is titled Keepers of the Flame, and it recognizes the bequests that have been made to this congregation, starting with Josephine Odom, whose bequest furnished the down payment for the lot that the church was built on. And then also Laura Wells, whose bequest paid off the mortgage on the original building here, so we could start raising money for the fellowship hall. And Wanda McMaster, Nina Cleveland, Barbara Hanneman, Kathy Olcott, and Roger Gillette. And the second plaque is titled Stewards of Our Future, and it recognizes substantial gifts during people's lifetimes. The first plate, the larger one, recognizes the entire congregation of 1994 to 2006. Over those 12 years, they contributed over $1 million to build this building and the fellowship hall. Their generosity is a shining example to all of us. And some of the people are here: Egan and Diana Bodker, Kay and Phil Cogswell, Joan Erickson, Odney Everson, Marge French, Paul and Carol Manka, Bob Muir, Sarah Gwynellen Pickett, Elsa and me, and Lorraine Stewart. And there are several anonymous ones. We appreciate them too. Most of those donations were given during the Legacy campaign last year. And these plaques live on the front wall, and they honor those contributors, past and present, that paved the way for our future. I also want to recognize other gifts, end-of-life commitments, and other contributions that are not listed that were made during last year's campaign. And if you have not made your own provision, you still can when the time is right for you. Thank you.
Thank you, George, for making a lot of wonderful things happen, including this place. So we're so grateful. We're so grateful.
Our closing hymn today is The Sweet June Days. It's number 65 in the gray hymnal. Please rise in body or spirit. The sweet June days are come again, once more the glad earth yields its golden wealth of ripening grain and breath of clover fields, and evening shade of summer woods and glow of summer air, and winging thoughts and happy moods of love and joy and prayer. The sweet June days are come again, the birds are on the wing, bright anthems in their merry strain, unconsciously they sing. Oh, how a cup brims with good these happy summer days, for all the joys of field and wood, we lift our song of praise.
I'd like you all to join your hearts with those around you and those that are in your heart as we say our closing words. May faith in the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come.